Today we will discuss the national legislations related to human trafficking. Human trafficking is a very interesting area of research also these days, and lot of efforts have been done by the Home Ministry as well as the Government of India in terms of human trafficking. And ignorance of law in India is no excuse. So I think it's a very important and interesting topic for discussion today. And today I will discuss the national legislations. And when I start discussing about the national legislations, I would like to tell you first what is human trafficking. I will just explain this with an example. A person from Uttarakhand comes here to Delhi, and the person who brings him here says to him that okay, you come to Delhi and I will just give you a very good job there in Delhi. When he comes to Delhi, then he is forced to work as a bonded labor. Maybe he is forced to work as a maid servant at home. So here trafficking starts, and this is an offense because when he came with a consent, it was his consent, he was very willing to work in Delhi because he was lured by that person, or maybe his family was lured by that person that okay, when you send him to Delhi, he will be living a very good life because this metro culture, is a very fascinating one, and everybody on TV and media sees this metro culture. So people from villages are really fascinated about going to these places and think that working there will give them more opportunities, will give them more money to earn, and they will have a very, very good place to go back and will earn reputation when they go back to their land. But if a person is brought without his consent and is lured, and then the person who brings him without the consent forces him to do something which may be against law, which may be against his wishes, then that person is trafficked, and the person who is doing that thing is a trafficker. So we have also made a request that a person who is found missing, and this is what a tie-up is with the Ministry of Home Affairs. We have this program. So we provide training also here in this program, and it is said that as soon as the person gets missing in the home, it should be reported to the police station. Then the police station should also track it and find out what are the possibilities where that person can be taken away. So if from the point of his home that can be traced out, if his relatives can be questioned, if his friends can be questioned, then maybe the police will be able to trace out his locations. And many a times a person gets missed, and after 2 years, 6 months or 4 years, he is found somewhere else, and nobody is there to look after that person. He is not also able to come back and then his life is without dignity and worth. So when we in India, we have Article 21 which says that dignity and worth are two important components on right to life. So that has to be ensured. A person has to get these rights because he is a human being. So if any person, maybe the father forces the girl to work in a place where she is not willing to work, so that is also exploitation of that girl's right, exploitation of that girl. And if something can be done for that person, I think the real intention of this legislation will prove to be wonderful, and a lot of problems related to children, lot of problems related to women and even males will be solved because after drug trafficking and after this flesh trade, this is the third form of professional thing which gives lot of income to the people in India and abroad. So this has been taken as a profession now for a lot of people who are really the traffickers and who are really into this business of trafficking, and they traffic people just for their interest. Maybe they will lure the parents for a few days, and later on the parent is also worried and he has no clue as to where the child is. So when we discuss about the national legislations, I think I should start with this, that there is no specific law related to human trafficking in India, and we have related laws, because in India when a crime takes place, then the provisions of IPC are also there. Then if the constitutional provisions are there, then definitely the articles will be there, and CRPC, IPC, and if a special offense has been done under the special act that has been done, then that can be taken into consideration. So when we start with this, I will just say that Section 3 of the Suppression of Immoral Traffic in Women and Girls Amendment Act 1986, the nomenclature of the act has been changed from 1987, and now it says Immoral Traffic Prevention Act 1956, and this is the main statute which talks about trafficking or human trafficking. And if I say that India is also a signatory to the UN protocol to prevent, suppress and punish trafficking in persons, especially women and children, supplementing the UN Convention against transnational organized crimes. In order to suppress the trafficking for labor also, we have very many statutes. Bonded labor is prohibited. Then we also have a statute which talks about that minimum wages should be paid to the laborers. Then Child Labor Prohibition and Regulation Act is also there. So all these acts, all these legislations come into force when a person has been trafficked or when a person's basic right to life has been violated by his family members, by the state, or by any person. When I start with the Constitution of India, the next legislation which I will be discussing will be the Immoral Traffic Prevention Act 1956. Then I will also discuss the Indian Penal Code provisions, the Code of Criminal Procedure Code, the Code of Criminal Procedure, the Indian Evidence Act, the Juvenile Justice Care and Protection of Children Act, which has been amended in 2006. This is a very important legislation in terms of children's rights, because two categories have been made in this act. One is a child who is in need of care and protection, and one is of a child who is in conflict with law. So I will be discussing when I talk about a child is in need of care and protection, which category of children fall under this category. When I talk about a child is in conflict with law, then I will also discuss that what are the reasons why a child is in conflict with law and what can be done for such a child to rehabilitate him, to mix him again in the society, because the child's mind is a small plate and it is very clean, and we the people in the society, we the people in the family give him values, and those values have an overall impression, and the child's role model is their parents, the child's role model is their family members. So a child is always doing or imitating the Parents Act, the Friends Act. So a child should be brought up in a way that he learns good things and he contributes a lot in the society when he grows up. Then we will also discuss the Child Labor Prohibition and Regulation Act 1986, the Bonded Labor System, the Information Technology Act, which is very new, and the Transplantation of Human Organs Act. Because when I started with this, I really wanted to discuss this in terms of organ transplantation also, because in India a lot of people just get lured away and they just want that, okay, somebody just says that, okay, I will give you 5,000 rupees, and then the person gives his organ. So one should understand that these organs are a very important part of our body, and organs should be protected, and so a legislation has been made that commercialization of organs should not be done. A lot of people earn money just by organ transplantations, and even by the medical practitioners it is not allowed. Even if a person comes for organ transplantation, the doctor should also see that the person who is being given this organ, is he related to that person, a very close knit, or that has been done for commercial exploitation, or maybe that person is out of vulnerability lured by the person, and out of vulnerability he is doing that thing. So in the interest of that person, the doctor also has to take initiatives. The doctor or the board has to be convinced that this is the natural need of the person. A family member is giving that in order to save his life, and that person's life should not be in danger. After giving, even the blood, many people have the habit of giving blood. So if that is on regular basis, that is okay. But a person who gives blood should be healthy enough to give a blood. The test should be made that he is not HIV positive anymore, because if he is HIV positive and he is giving blood, then that blood will have a very negative effect also on the other person's health, and his family is also involved. So a doctor has to check in case where people want to give blood. Doctor has to check when people really come up to the hospital and say that I have to give my organ to somebody else, because this should not be for the business sake, this should not be for the commercial sake, but just to save a person's life. And so the penal provisions, the act has been framed in such a way that it is very stringent on certain aspects, and any doctor, any person working in the medical field can really come out with the conclusions that this is a genuine person and this is a person who is in this trade, and he is a person who is vulnerable, and because of his vulnerability the other person is using it. So when I talk about the Constitution of India, I will talk about Article 14, because it says equality before law and equal protection of law. So when the Constitution was framed, the framers of the Constitution were very intelligent enough to get the best out of every country, and this is why we say that the Constitution of India is a very good constitution, and we have survived with so many years with this constitution, and this constitution is one of the best constitution in the world, and a lot of people appreciate it also, and we people in India should also appreciate this fact that a lot of people stay in India with different culture, with different races, with different classes, and all these articles are in a way providing us an all-round development, providing us a better place to live in India. So Article 14, which talks about that every person is equal. You cannot differentiate a person on the basis that he belongs to a specific caste or a class, or he is poor or he is rich. And then the law also says that when you come to the courts of law, then the law will also treat you as equals. And then we have pauper suits also, to just facilitate the people who cannot afford to have a lawyer. Then legal aid is also provided to people when they cannot afford justice. So justice should be not denied to any person just on the basis of the fact that he cannot afford a very good lawyer. And there are panel lawyers who take up these cases of people who cannot just afford a lawyer or an advocate. And in India we have a very good system of what is called PIL, public interest litigation, where also a person can just say or write that okay, this is the issue, it should be taken into consideration, and if he writes to a judge or even by a media report in the newspaper, the judge can take the case. And I think this gives a variety of aspects in our Indian judiciary system. This says that Indian judiciary is so good and so live. Any day just looking at a newspaper cutting, you can just take it as a case. So that is the beauty of our constitution. Then Article 15, which talks about prohibition, any person should not be provide a special class for people, and it says that no person shall be discriminated on the grounds of religion, caste, creed, or by place of birth. So you cannot differentiate people, that you come from south, so you have different rights. You come from northern India, so you have different rights. Or you cannot access the wells, you cannot access temples or churches or any place of worship. So everybody has the right to worship all these places. Everybody has the right to live with dignity and worth. And this is what Article 15 says, that no person shall be discriminated. Then Article 15, Clause 3 makes a special provision for women and children. Because it says that people who are vulnerable can have a special right, and special provisions can be made by the state government, by the central government, for protection and promotion of these rights. A child's rights is very important because he is the future of the country. A lady's right is also very important because she is the base of the family, and lot of differences are found in India as well as other countries. Biologically they are not same. So if special provisions are made just for their upliftment, that can be a reservation policy, that can be educational funding to these people, for children and for ladies, because you have to bring them at par with the other people. So if we have a special provision regarding children and regarding ladies, as in metro we see special coaches are there for ladies. So this is a very positive step by the government, and it has been made just to ensure the woman's dignity while traveling in a metro, just to make metro a very safer place for a woman who is traveling, and just to ensure that her basic rights of dignity should not be deprived in any case. Then if I talk about Article 16(1), this is also a very important article, and it says equality of opportunities in matter of public employment, that every person should be given an opportunity to work. You get education. After education, you should be able to sustain your living, and for just sustaining your living, it should not be discriminated that okay, people from this place will only be provided by jobs. All over India, any person can go and work if he is an Indian citizen. Nobody will differentiate or say that you do not belong to our community, so why do you want public employment at our place? You do not come from this language, so why do you want to work in our state? So this should not be allowed, and this is why this provision has been made in Article 16, Clause 1, that equality of opportunity will be provided to everybody. Then Article 23 is also very important. It says that it prohibits trafficking in human beings and forced labor. So when I talked about human trafficking in the beginning, I just mentioned that trafficking in person can be for forced labor, trafficking in person can be for bonded labor, trafficking in person can be for flesh trade, trafficking in person can be for organ transplantation, trafficking in person can be for child laborers, for domestic workers, for massage and beauty parlors. So trafficking can be for any reason. So forced labor is prohibited. Human trafficking is also prohibited. That means you cannot buy a person as a commodity. You cannot sell a person as a commodity. A person cannot say in the market, okay, she is my girl, I want to sell it. So because we are not commodities, we are human beings, and we cannot be equated by commodities, So this provision specifically says that a person cannot be trafficked, and forced labor is prohibited in India. Then if I talk about Article 24, then I will just say that Article 24 says that it prohibits employment of children in hazardous employments. And now it is said that hazardous employments, children who are working in the BD factories, children who are working in glass factories should not be made to work there because it is prohibited by the law. And if any child is found working there, then suitable necessary actions have to be taken by the police officials, have to be taken by the judiciary, so that the child is sent to the schools, because Article 21 is also there now, which talks about education to all. So education is a very important aspect, and that can only be ensured when the child is not made to work, and a child is not made to work in hazardous employment. Below 14 years, a child should not be employed in anywhere, and hazardous employment is prohibited in all cases. No child should be employed in a hazardous occupation. Then Article 38 also talks about various rights, which says that Article 38 also talks about that social, economic and political justice has to be done to people, and just to maintain the social order, social justice should be done, political justice should be done, and economical justice should also be done. So let the people grow, So you cannot just say that, okay, you can only be employed in certain economic activities. It should be open to all. The social strata, or the field where I come from, should not hamper my opportunities of working in another field. If I am a cobbler, I can work anywhere else also because I am a cobbler by choice. Or if my father was a cobbler, it is not important that I should also be a cobbler one day. So I can just choose my profession, and this, is the thing that it's provide an opportunity to grow. Then Article 42 and 45 and 46 are also related. 45 makes provision for free and compulsory education for children, and now Article 21A is there, which really talks about right to education to children below 14 years of age. That is free and compulsory education. So that was a directive principle, and now it is a fundamental right by Article 21A. Then Article 46 directs the states to promote educational and economic interests of the women and weaker sections of the people, and that it shall protect them from social injustice and all forms of exploitation. So this is another important provision which talks about that social justice has to be ensured, and a lady's dignity should be respected by all and should be protected by the state. Next provision when I talk about is 1956 Act, that is Immoral Traffic Prevention Act 1956. This is one legislation which talks about human trafficking, and Section 3 says that keeping a brothel or allowing a premises to be used as a brothel is punished under this act. So nobody can be saying that I have a brothel house, or I have a house and I have given that house for rent to a brothel place. So a person who gives his house or his premises to be used as a brothel house will be punished. Then living on the earnings of the prostitutions are also not allowed by this act, because it is a profession now. These days, why people traffic? Just because they want to earn money out of another person's. So when the state says that brothel homes are not allowed, people cannot use their premises as brothel houses. So even the massage parlors, we find lot of massage parlors advertised, and lot of raids have been done by the police people, and this is where the training and sensitization is very important, because a police officer has so many things to do. So if a like-minded person who is really knowing about these laws, if makes a phone call to the police person, if he knows that a brothel is working in a place or a massage parlor is providing these services, then if a complaint can be made to the police officer, and his dignity and his identity will be maintained by the police officer, and it will be kept as a secret, and then if a raid can be done, and that brothel house should be closed by the order of the magistrate, then I think that like-minded people will also have a fear of the fact that if I also open a brothel home, if I also do something that is against the law, then I will be checked by the police officer, my place will be closed, and I will be booked under certain sections of Indian law. But enforcement is very important. We have the laws, but enforcement in a way, if that is very positive from all the aspects of society, as a like-minded or a civilized person, a person should report and cooperate with the police officers, because police officer also should get something. He should be told about that, okay, this place is being used as a brothel home. Otherwise, how will a police officer come to know about it? And when the police officer makes raid there and shuts there, or that place is closed, then the people should not, illegally use that place. When it has been closed by the judiciary, it has been closed by the police officer, and that action has taken place, then after the police leaves, after putting a lock and a seal, when the police leaves, from the back door, the same place should not be used. And for that, the people can contribute a lot in this, because the police officer will not be able to just sit there and guard that place. But any person, any civilized person who knows about this fact can easily report it to the police people, because they are staying in the society. If a neighbor reports it to the police person that after you went, then these people were trying to enter this place from the back door, then immediately the police people will take action against those people. But many a times crimes are not reported. Even they are reported, it is very difficult for the police officers to get evidences against all witnesses for those crimes. And these are heinous offences done by very professional criminals. It is the third largest trade where people are earning like anything. So a person who is in this business will try a lot to lure other people, and will try that justice should not be done to the person who is a victim of this crime. I say that that lady, that child, or any person who has been trafficked is a victim and not an accused. And this differentiation has to be taken into consideration while we are interacting with these people. A lot of people say that a lady is a prostitute out of choice. But lot of people, have done studies which have proved that ladies do not do this activity just for their entertainment or just to earn money, but they are forced into this business. They don't have any alternative. The family also is not ready to take them back. They are not able to reintegrate into the society. They are not able to go back to their land and live a dignified life. Everybody says, oh, she was a prostitute. So, here the stigma comes. So, if, a person has to come out of that fear because her basic rights were violated, her legal rights were violated, lot of criminal activities have been done on her while she was in the transit period, while she was brought to the place, and when she was even taken away. So that ladies or that child psychology has to be understood by the people living in the society, and it is even if by choice a person goes once, maybe he is not of that age to understand, because he has not developed his maturity level to understand the consequences of that act. Lot of girls, go away with their boyfriends, and later on when they have problems, even the society people and the parents say that you only left the place and now you cannot come back. So if the lady is not allowed to come back, how will she have faith in other people? In a mother you can have faith. In your own parents you can have faith. But if your own parents are cursing you, if your own parents are not taking you back, how do you think that lady will feel that, okay, the society people will accept me? So here I think a sensitivity has to be developed and an insight has to be developed that okay, these people should not be treated as criminals. These people should not be treated as people who have really committed crimes out of choice, or they have been in these occupations out of choice, but these people are forced, are vulnerable, and they really want help from the police people, from the media people, from the judges. And so the reason is why these crimes are not reported. Even the media personnel cannot report that okay, this lady was involved in these activities. So a sensitivity and a concern for these people have to be brought into place. Even a person, he gives his organ. Out of getting money, he is giving his organ. And later on when he has some complications, then the doctor is not able to address his problems because he cannot get an organ now. He has already given his organ. So life should not be made so cheap that it can be taken away by another person. So here it says that everybody should be aware of their rights, and the more you are aware of your rights, the more violations can be stopped. Because if I know that I have a right, then a person will feel okay, she knows about her rights. But if the other person knows that okay, she is very vulnerable, she is not even aware of her rights, then maybe at some point of time the other person will take benefits out of my ignorance. Then it also says that detaining a person in the premises where prostitution is carried out is also not allowed. Under section 6, prostitution in and around the vicinity of public place is also not allowed under section 7. Why public places are not the places where these activities should take place? Because the child also moves there, like-minded people also moves there, so a child's mind is very sensitive to all these kinds of things, and whatever a child sees, it goes in his mind, and it is very difficult to differentiate between good and bad at a very tender age. So that maturity level has to be there. And now it say even the government also and the health department also continuously says that lot of diseases are there. So it should be not done just for doing it or just for entertainment. Then seducing or soliciting for the purpose of prostitution is also illegal. Then seduction of a person in custody, section 9 says that this also cannot be done. Then 293 section says that sale of obscene objects to the young person. In the bookshops also it is said that children books should be kept away or at a different counter, and these books, which are any book which is obscene and which is indecent representation is there, that book should not be sold by any person, and nobody will be allowed to sell these kinds of books. These kinds of videos are also not allowed to be sold in the market. Then obscene acts and songs are prohibited under section 294. Then exposure and abandonment of child under 12 years by parents or person having care of it. It is a moral responsibility of a parent and even a legal responsibility of a parent to nurture the child. So you cannot say that okay, I gave a birth to my child, but now I cannot take care of my child, so I am saying that okay, I abandon my child. So that is not allowed. 341 talks about punishment for wrongful restraint. 342 talks about punishment for wrongful confinement. And then 354 talks about assault or criminal force to women with intent to outrage her modesty. So these are another sections, and this is very important. I cannot say at a particular time that outside this EMPC building I will not let the other person move, because I am restraining that person and his right or his freedom to move is being violated when I say that okay, you have to sit in this room. So if I say to the child that I will lock in you. If you do not obey me, then I will lock you inside the bathroom. So that is also not allowed, because you cannot lock a child and go away. Even lot of people, it has been reported that lot of domestic servants are locked in home when the family goes out. So that is also illegal and it should not be done. Either don't keep a person. If you keep a person, then maintain his dignity, because it is a very common saying that do to others what you want them to do to you. So nobody will like to be locked in a bathroom. So it should not be told to a child. It should not be told to a maid servant, because that person is also working for your family. And once when we have this system that we think that the other person who is working, maybe a driver or a maid, is a family member and his basic rights should be respected, and this is what all we talk about legal education, that every person is equal. He is working, but he is not your subordinate. He has not given his basic rights to you, and you are not the protector and the guardian of his rights, and you will not decide what rights should be given to that person and what rights should be curtailed, because these rights are available to all just by the matter of fact that they are human beings. And our constitution says that these are the human beings and they have to be given certain rights. These are basic rights which nobody can take, even there are exceptions to this. And the article also says that no right is absolute and reasonable restrictions are there, but a restriction which is imposed by a parent should be reasonable. A restriction which is imposed by the police officer has to be reasonable. Even by the state, a restriction that is put has to be reasonable. So any restriction which is unreasonable, which you cannot substantiate or you cannot defend, is illegal, and that cannot be done by the other person. Then section 363 talks about punishment for kidnapping. Then it also says kidnapping or abduction with intent secretly and wrongfully to confine person. 365. 366 says kidnapping, abducting or inducing woman to compel her marriage, etc. Then a procuration of a minor girl. 366A says here age of the girl is below 18 years. When the child the age of marriage is 18 years, so nobody can say that okay, we are your parents, so we do not want you to get married to a person out of your choice, so we are just keeping you at home, locking you inside the room until date when we fix your marriage out of our choice, and the person comes in and your marriage ceremony takes place, you will not be able to get out of this house. So this is also illegal. You cannot force a person to get married. Child marriage is prohibited. It is banned. Nobody can just give her child or his child when he is a child. And then kidnapping is also not allowed. Then it also says that for begging purposes, you also cannot hire a person. And I think when the people move, then lot of beggars are there on the streets. The children who are beggars should be taken into consideration, and it should be immediately reported to the police officer or the welfare officers. And if that juvenile justice police unit is there, which is very much there in Delhi, should be reported, and these are the children which need special care and protection. There is nobody to look after these children, so these children should be looked after by the family members. If cannot be looked after by the family members, then their rights should be protected. Then it also says that selling of minors for the purpose of prostitution, etc. is also not allowed. If I also say that Indian Penal Code is also there in the Criminal Procedure Code and Indian Evidence Act, is just to support the criminal procedure, and it says that 357 is also there. In that, this is a very important section which talks about having relevancy as related to human trafficking. Then we have Child Labor Prohibition Act, which everybody knows. Then Bonded Labor System Abolition Act, where you cannot employ a child or you cannot keep a person as a bonded labor. Then Transplantation of Human Organs Act, which I just discussed, that this is a very important act which has twofold objective. First is to provide the regulation of removal, storage and transplantation of human organs for therapeutic purposes only, and to prevent commercial dealings in human organs. So one aspect has to be taken into consideration, that a person's vulnerability should not be used by the other person for commercialization, for earning profit. And here we should differentiate that every person has the right to live with dignity and worth. Every person is a human being. His basic dignity and worth should be ensured by every person living in the society. And when we ensure the other person's dignity and worth, then definitely our dignity and worth is also ensured. And this is what when we talk about a lot of people, that in the moral sayings also, when we teach the children, it says that respect the people and people will respect you back. I think this is what the legal provisions are, and I will just close this session now. Thank you all for listening to me, and I hope that you had a very good time in listening this. Thank you.